Hey folks, welcome to Momentum Monday once again. Um, and hello to Arash and Luke. How you
Hello,
doing?
hello.
That was
So,
Rash.
oh, hang on, there we go again. I've got to remember that to do that every time. There we go. So, how's everyone going? Why don't we start with a bit of positive focus? What's post in the chat? One good thing, the best thing that happened this week. And why don't we kick off with you, Luke? What was the best thing that happened this week?
Let's see. The best thing that happened for me this week. Probably this. I was gonna probably the change of the setup where I moved my keyboard around and added a keyboard to my setup, thus removing friction.
Okay,
Uh,
cool. Has somebody got their sound on for the comments coming through? Because I can hear it going every time a comment comes in. Is that someone? No. Anyway, I'll just ignore it. Can anyone else hear that, or is that just me?
yeah, I do hear that.
Yeah, I think it might be one of you. You've got sound on the comments.
Let me see.
How do I turn that off?
I have no idea. So anyway, I'm gonna continue talking. Yes. So what was the best things that happened last week for you guys and girls? Luke, can you read out some of the comments?
Yeah, let's see. Preston splurged daily. Matt also splurged and hadn't been splurging in a while. Bart got a new job. Andrew did 5 splurges.
Great.
Doug realized he was in a rabbit hole. 2 enough, splurged every day.
Mm-hmm.
Hiram is still alive.
Great.
Let's see. Sean had 86 splurges.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Jace's new studio is operational. The streaming webcams came in.
Right. Brilliant. Well done, everyone. And yeah, who is that? You, Arnash, or is that you, Luke?
Let me try exiting out of YouTube and see if it still happens.
Yeah. Why didn't anyone? But don't both do that because then we'll find out who it is. So, Luke, have you done that?
Yeah, I've done it.
Are you still in there, Ardash?
I am.
You're still in YouTube. It must be you, Luke, I think. Oh no, it's still going.
There it is.
Yeah, so why don't you try going back to YouTube, Luke, and Ardash, you exit out and see if it stops, and then we can find out. Sorry about this, guys. The first show went so well that obviously something was going to go wrong in this show. So anyway, in this one, one of the things we're going to be doing is I'm going to be revealing to you exactly how I'm going to be launching my brand new artist project next year, and why I'm doing it.
I don't think it's me.
Maybe
sorry,
it's
Mike.
me, but I haven't got it open on here.
Does Ecamm?
Maybe why would they do that? Why would they even do that for?
I don't know.
So. So there we go. It was me. Why would you even want that? Anyway, so I guess some people do. So okay. So apologies, everybody. Let's have a bit of a. It's not working. No, that's not working either. Oh no, that's not working. Oh, I see that one. Right. So now what I've done is I've turned off something, which means. Okay, I'm going to have to. So we're not going to have, unfortunately, no DJ air horns today, because because that has now turned off that too.
Is it a Momentum Monday with no air horns? Come on.
What?
Okay.
Should I leave now, or should I stay another 5 minutes?
No, it's all good. So, all right, yes. So, but that's what we're going to do. But first of all, what I also want to know from everybody is, how did you remove friction this week? So I'm going to start off by I'm going to kick it off. Okay. So I had some great results about removing friction. That's the wrong one. Let's try this one. So using the paths process, I managed to essentially choose between a ridiculous number of ideas that I've been working on, because next year, and I'll let you more about this later, I'm going to be releasing a track every week. So in the last 3 months of this year, I'm attempting to get ahead at the same time as doing everything else by 3 months. So that's basically getting 12 tracks done. And ideally, I'd like to get more than that done. So essentially, if we go over to... Hang on, that's the wrong thing there. If we go over here to my automatic music machine, there was in Splurge just an absolutely, really, really long list down here. Okay. And what I managed to do was, so there was all of this stuff down here. And what I did was I used this paths process to figure out, so I asked myself these questions of the different things that were in Splurge to figure out what the quickest ones would be to finish. Because one of the benefits of having a situation where you're releasing a track every year rather than something like an album or something, is one of the benefits. It doesn't mean it's a better thing to do necessarily, but it's just one of the benefits, is that means that you can, it's almost like you're less precious about what you finish first. So you can actually decide to finish the ones which are easier to finish first, because it doesn't actually matter. And that's one of the ways, folks, that you want to think about building momentum, is you can actually prefer momentum as the thing that you are building. It's like, rather than which one is going to express me in the most beautiful way, that's often the way that we, maybe not exactly like that, but that's often the way we decide what we want to work on. But how about instead asking which are the ones that are the easiest and quickest to finish, because that builds momentum, and then that momentum, it plays on itself. It kind of it sort of means that you then can finish the harder stuff easier. There is an idea out there of I think it's Brian Tracy book called Eat the Frog, which is do the hardest thing first. And I'm like, yeah, I get it, but how about doing the easiest thing first so that you build momentum and then use the momentum to do the harder things, the things that are going to take you longer. So basically, I asked myself these different questions about the tracks, which gave me a lot of clarity about the ways forward, right? Before doing anything, the ways forward. And then I could see which were, because I had paths for each of these ideas, not all of them, because some of them just went straight, I was never going to work on them again. Right, but because I had paths for each of the ideas, I could see which paths were the ones which were the simplest to take, which were the ones that were downhill, and it was wonderful. it was fantastic. It was such a massive relief. So how about you, Arnash? How did you remove friction this week?
There's a lot going on in this past week, and I just completely stopped using Instagram altogether. And just that allowed me to stay focused on completing projects and making sure that I even got splurges in too, which is great.
Fantastic. And how about you, Luke?
So if you can see, I have a keyboard back to my right, and what I typically do when I'm splurging or working is I have to move my chair and go over there. And I know that probably seems like trivial, and it's really like only a few seconds, but I moved a keyboard, so it's now like right here. So I have two keyboards, and now if I want to do quick edits or just splurge like a quick bass line or something, I don't have to move. And so it's just really made the process a lot more enjoyable.
Boom! In your face, friction.
So, yeah, it reduced friction, and I checked my time spent on rescue time, and I think it like almost doubled the time spent in Ableton. So
I know it's absurd. Like these tiny little things. I mean, I had lots of examples where other things. I won't go into them now. So, any other people in the comments? Let's read out some of the things that people have been saying. And while you're finding one, because probably we've talked a while since that. Ron, I think it was, said the lucid lens was completely useless this week. I completely forgot about it. Now, what's wrong with that statement? Why does that statement not make sense? The lucid lens was completely useless last week. I completely forgot about it. Was it the lucid lens that was completely useless? Or was it something else? This is something that I really want people to take on board with any kind of thing that I give you or any kind of training. Sometimes I think that people expect there to be some kind of magic button that you automatically push and automatically something happens, yeah, without you actually having to do anything. It's not that the lucid lens was useless. It's not even that you were completely useless. It's that you didn't do it, right? So let's take some responsibility here and say, I didn't do the lucid lens, so I don't know how it worked, rather than the lucid lens was completely useless. Because if you do it, you'll find out whether it's completely useless or not. Okay? So, are there any people who remove friction, ways that they remove friction?
I don't really. MJ Smith says less social media, more splurging. But it looks like people are writing more of what they did versus what they removed. Okay.
So it would be good. I mean, this is a slightly different way of doing things, but actually success is actually more about what you say no to than what it is about what you say yes to. Okay? Success is about saying no to more things. You know this well, don't you, Arne? We had a coaching session just last week, essentially for 2 hours. That's what we were talking about. So that is really something to think about. Okay, so what we're going to do next is the lightning rod. And after that, what we're going to be covering one of the biggest mistakes that I've noticed from interacting with a lot of people on email over the last couple of weeks. The biggest mistake most music producers and musicians are making when they're thinking about releasing their music. But first of all, what we're going to do is just a bit of free writing with the lightning rod. Okay. Now, if you weren't present last week, no problem at all. What I want you to do is I want you to get a piece of paper and a pen, or you can do it electronically by typing. Okay, so you can get a doc or notes. And what you're going to do is I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to put it up on the screen. I'm going to ask you a question, and you're just going to write what comes out without thinking about it. No editing. You're not going to think, you're just going to write what comes out, even if it's complete gibberish. And the rules are, you do not stop writing. If you can't think of anything, if nothing comes, just keep tapping the last letter, or keep writing the last letter that you wrote, and then something will start coming again, and then you'll be off again. Do not stop writing. Go as fast as possible. Do not edit. Okay? So what the lightning rod is this week is, and are you ready? Is everyone ready? And does everyone understand what we're doing? Because the other thing to bear in mind is that the question I'm going to ask you, it isn't intended necessarily to be a realistic question, okay? It's kind of breaking you out of your current way of thinking by asking you sometimes an impossible question, okay? So does everyone understand? That's the other thing to say. Is there anybody who's asking a question in the chat? Yeah? No? Okay, we're all good.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question is, if you had to use only your strengths and completely ignore your weaknesses when making music, what would your music have to sound like? So, go. Free write as fast as possible without thinking. Don't edit. Do not stop writing no matter what. You had to use only your strengths and completely ignore your weaknesses. What would your music have to sound like? Keep writing into your doc. Don't stop. Keep writing. A couple of minutes left. Just write gibberish, Robin. Don't worry. Keep going. You'll get there. Okay. So So, yeah, am I back? Yeah, okay. So,
we'll see. Keep going. We'll see.
okay, no, I think it should be working now. So, um, so yeah, free writing is something that has changed my life, and it's changed a lot of other people's lives as well. So just sitting there and waiting for this part to be over, you're not actually going to get the full value of this thing, because one of the problems that human beings encounter is that they get stuck in boxes and they do the same things. They just do what everybody else is doing. Okay, and you have an enormous amount of knowledge that isn't and wisdom already that you don't usually have access to, because you're kind of just busy in your day to day. And free writing allows you to actually get some of that out. So the next time we do a free writing session, don't just sit there and post on the chat. If you want to do that, then go and do something else, okay? And don't say, I can't do this or I can't think, because you're not free writing. Just keep writing. Just write something. Yeah, even gibberish. Yes, even gibberish. And you say, don't say, I can't stop editing myself. Yeah, that's because you've not practiced it. So just write. And eventually you will get it. It's like anything else. It's practice. It isn't, this doesn't work. It's, I haven't figured out how to do this yet, or I haven't practiced this yet. Okay? Again, this is about training, about practice, about doing something different. Now, presumably, you're here in order to make some improvements in your music. And as somebody who has coached thousands of music producers, I've found that this is one of the best ways of doing it. Okay, yeah, like I get it. It can be a bit weird. It can feel a bit strange. But it's an absolute game changer when you put your mind to it. I mean, if there's anybody in the community right now who thought this was weird when I first asked you to do it, but has realized why I'm asking you to do it, please can you let the other people know that, that you know, so it's not just coming from me. I mean, Luke and Arash, have you I mean, how do you feel about free writing, and how did you feel when you first did it?
Go ahead, Luke.
Yeah, I probably did it. I did it the first time like a while ago, but I mean now it's like I don't know what I'd do without it. It's essential to just like, I mean, I probably do it every day, sometimes multiple times a day. It's like how you solve problems. It's how you do it's like everything.
I can tell
use
you
it all the time.
I can tell you one way of removing friction instantly from your life is when you feel like watching a YouTube video, not this one obviously, but when you feel like watching a YouTube video, before you do that, do a free writing session for 3 minutes on the thing that you're trying to find out, okay? And just practice doing that. If you find it hard to do, that's fine, but just practice doing that. I can guarantee you will save hours and hours and hours and hours of your life and get the result you're looking for much more quickly. Yeah, because you're accessing what you already know, rather than just going, oh, I'm just going to go and watch something on YouTube. Yeah, so there you go. How about you, Arash?
Yeah, we've definitely done this before, and the thing that I actually noticed in this particular free writing it was very thoughtful. It needs to be this, it needs to be this. And then at one point I said, oh, nope, let's just let it go. So I wrote down like choir, this, that, sample, Kanye, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. And it just felt completely different from the initial maybe 3.5 minutes of me writing. And it flowed out a lot quicker too. Yeah. So I got to be careful about where I think I'm free writing. I feel like I'm actually saying the things that might sound like I'm free writing versus actually just letting it.
Yeah, exactly. Because in the free writing, you don't. I'm sorry for moving around so much. One of the reasons is if I managed to move my webcam off my desk so I don't shake, but I'm getting confused with where the camera actually is. Anyway, so yeah, the reason that we do the free writing is to get past the conscious thoughts that we have about it, which are usually based upon things we already know, that we're kind of already aware of. So if we're stuck in a problem, you free write and you kind of get out of it. Now the problem is if you're not used to it and you're very, very in your head, essentially not being able to free write is an indication, not that it doesn't work, but that you can't do it yet. So the solution to that is to do it more, not to do it less, and go, oh no, this doesn't work, or last week's was better. Yeah, it just means like if you find this one more difficult, that probably means that there's something there, right? Because every problem is a solution in disguise. Yeah, if you have a difficulty doing something, yeah, and somebody who you trust is telling you you really need to do this, then you don't turn away from it. You do it. Anyway, so that brings me on to this week's Lucid Lens. And as I said, where's the... Yeah. So have I got all that? Hang on, let's put that down. And that down. Right, which is, and this is on the site, which is play to your strengths. So I've put the image, and I think there's now a kind of tablet kind of one. I've put the images on the site. They'll become available after this session. And remember, with the Lucid Lens, what I want you to do is when you have a decision that you need to make, which if you're making music, are going to be a lot of times, then just ask yourself the question, okay, so how would I play to my strengths in this situation? Yeah. And when you see it on your phone or on your iPad or on your screen and you're doing something and you think, okay, so how would I do this differently if I was playing to my strengths? Okay, and next week I'm going to ask you what you have done differently, which means that you are now playing to your strengths. Because one of the things that YouTube tutorials and everything like that encourages us often to do is play to our weaknesses. Now, I'm definitely not saying that we don't need to practice the things that we can't do. Okay, so this often happens when I talk about things like this. People are, oh, Mike Monday says that we're not supposed to get better at, and it's like, no, that's not what I'm saying at all. But what I am saying is that we need to know because if I say play to your strengths, what's the first thing that you need to figure out? What your strengths actually are. Yeah, in terms of everything. Okay, which is really helpful. Because if you only practice improving your weaknesses, all you're going to do is have very strong weaknesses. Yeah? So, if you think about football, or as they call it in America, soccer, but its actual name is football. Okay? So, so if you think about football, the people who are playing in certain positions, they're not put in those positions because they're weak at doing the things that you do in those positions, and you don't see them spending all of their time practicing what they're bad at, right? What they're doing is practicing what they're good at. They are playing to their strengths, right? So again, this isn't a binary thing. It's not like that means I must never, I mean, you know, like the lightning rod that we just did. I'm not suggesting that you only make music using your strengths. I'm just saying what would happen, what would your music sound like if that was the case? Because then that kind of makes you go, well, hang on a minute, so what could I do differently? Yeah, and then you can use some of that information to actually maybe alter what you're doing or do things slightly differently, thereby playing to your strengths. Because the other thing about strengths and weaknesses is that it is one of the things that makes you you. And who here doesn't want to make music that sounds more like them, more like you? Does everybody here want to make music that expresses you more like authentically? I'm presuming so. Okay, so let's actually make music that plays to your strengths and at least de-emphasizes your weaknesses. Yeah, and of course there are some weaknesses that you're going to have to practice. It's just a fact of the matter. So are there any questions about this coming through at the moment?
Yeah, but we've been on it. A lot of people are asking like questions about do we have specific topics we write about, or should just ask a question and go for it?
What is this about free writing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
yeah,
Luke, so why don't you let the folks know how you use free writing?
I mean, I use it to like solve problems or anything. Like if I'm like having trouble, like, you know, planning my day, or if I want to spend more time on music, or if I'm trying to think of like an idea or like how I want to like launch something, or like if I kind of know something and I want to kind of like find out more about what I'm thinking about it, whether it's like a project or like an album or a collab or anything like that. Basically just anything I'm not sure about, I kind of will write on, or if I want to brainstorm, or if I want to like solve a problem.
Okay.
Or if I want to make content like an email, I just write it for 10 minutes and then it's just there.
Yeah, so I've got this thing, and I actually was going to include it in the initial master. Well, it wasn't actually a master planner. There was going to be a master planner, and there was going to be a master tracker. But then when I kind of introduced it to Luke and Arash, Luke was just like, it's just too much. So I've simplified things. But basically, this will come later. I will kind of introduce it later once we've kind of got into the swing of things. And also, I'm going to be adding some elements to this whole group, which are going to make all of this much, much easier for you to kind of process. So we are going to be able to do more. But one of the things that I do is I have this thing called a BUP. Can anybody guess what a BUP is? I'm thinking not. Okay, so it's the biggest, it's my biggest unsolved problem. Okay? And at the end of each day, I write down my BUP, my daily BUP. Okay? And this is around dinner time. Okay, and I just write down what's my biggest unsolved problem. And then that's it. I just write it down. I don't particularly. I mean, obviously, I guess I do think about it, but I don't consciously think about it. I just let it be there. I go to bed, and then usually, sometimes I don't get to it. I'll be honest, just because there are other things that happen. But so, for instance, I didn't do it this morning. But usually, if I can, I then first thing will free write on my BUP. Yeah, my biggest unsolved problem. And it could be anything. It could be something about my kids. It could be something about music. It could be something about a tune that I can't get, can't figure out. It could be kind of some relationship thing. It could be a business thing. It's really about anything. What is the kind of biggest unsolved problem? And I free write on it for as long. I mean, I tend not to set a timer these days, although sometimes I do, just to get myself to do it. If I stop doing it for any period of time, I set myself a timer for a short amount of time, and I just do it because I find that easier than just this kind of free, endless thing. But by doing that, by figuring, by actually writing down a BUP at the end of each day, and the reason I do it at the end of each day, Arash, why might I be doing it at the end of each day?
It's a great way to kind of mind dump your day out, onto paper. It allows you to rethink your day without any stress or deadlines. It's like the day is done, and it's a great way to reflect on what happened as well.
Yeah. So I'm not actually doing the free writing at the end of the day. I'm just asking the question at the end of the day.
Oh.
Yeah. So why? Sorry, I wasn't clear about that. So Luke, why do you think I might be doing it at the end of the day?
Probably because you've gone through your day and there was some tension and you realized it.
So what is the thing that happens between the end of my day and the start of the next day?
Sleep.
Ah. So what happens? What are dreams for? What's sleep for? I mean, sleep's for obviously sleeping and like recharging, but what else is it for?
It's your subconscious working on all the problems you're facing.
So basically, you're getting your back brain involved. So free writing, BUP, all this kind of stuff is essentially intended to get your, well, I mean, it's not going to be the whole of your mind, but more of the resources that you're already available to you working for you, yeah, kind of almost automatically, yeah, by just dropping this question in the end of the day, your BUP, and then just forgetting about it. Because obviously it's unconscious, right? Going to sleep, waking up, and then free writing on it, it just gets you going. So that's just a little additional thing that I wasn't going to share at this point, but just because people were asking about it, there we go. At some point in the future, I will formalize it into extra stuff. But yeah, so now let's do a little bit before we move on to the bit where I'm going to tell you all about the business stuff and how I'm going to be releasing and why I'm releasing as I am. Let's go to the master plan. Now, what I've done this week is I've decided to show you how I've actually filled out my master planner. Yeah. For this week, and it's a new one, right? So you can actually download this off the site. I have checked and it is there. So if not, don't worry, just write this on a piece of paper. And essentially, so my day starts, and why did I say 20th of October? I got the date wrong there. Sorry. It's a bit weird. I must have looked at the calendar. All right, so my day starts today. So it's the 13th of October, right? Obviously, so I'm not a week in the future. I'm a day in the future, yeah? And the lucid lens is play to your strengths, yeah? So you write that in there. And then the lightning rod, I've just done a shorthand version here, which is ignore your weaknesses. So everybody be filling this out or writing these in headings, however you want to do it. Ignore your weaknesses, own your strengths. What would my music have to sound like? Okay, so that's kind of unblocked a few things, yeah. And then in the first box here, box 1, now what it says is results received from last week. Okay, so for me, what happened was, I mean, you could write all of the results you did, but it's almost like the approach I want you to take with this is it's almost like what's the kind of defining result? Now, it could be a good result if you want, but what I find much more useful is for it to be what you would call a negative result, a problem. Yeah. So one of the things that I found last week in my sessions, because I'm getting music into release, is I spent way too long just tweaking for no particular reason. Does anybody else know what I mean when I say that? Has anyone else ever done that? No, I've never done that. So, I mean, it's just like, so as a result of that thing that happened, what will I change? So I said, I'll shorten sessions and get clearer on what I'm doing pre-session and set a timer. So I'm going to set a countdown timer. Okay. So right now, think about what happened as a result of what you did last week. So for instance, Ron said he didn't do the lucid lens. Yeah, so that could be one of the things that you want to focus on in this box and say, well, I didn't do the lucid lens. Not the lucid lens was useless. I didn't do the lucid lens. Right. So what will I change? I will put it on my phone, I will put it on my computer, and I will remind myself to do it or something. I don't know. So it's like, what happened and what will you change as a result of that thing happening? Okay? So I'm just going to keep going. Yeah. And then the other thing I've done to simplify this for you, okay, is that I have combined the stop habit and the start habit. Yeah. So what you're now going to do, and so that was last week. That was a little review of last week. We're now going to focus on what we're doing in the next week. Okay. So from box 2. Okay. So stop habit. This week, if I do something that I want to stop, then I will do something you want to start. Yeah. Now this might involve doing something that, sort of slightly differently, but that's absolutely fine. Yeah. We're combining. So you're actually starting something and stopping something at the same time. So for instance, my example is when I do a release prep session. Yeah. So a release prep session, for those who haven't done the leap, is the session that we do to something in Done that gets the thing ready for release. Yeah. So this week, if I do a release prep session, this is what I'm going to start doing. Okay. My start habit is 1, create a 4D mixing image if I don't have one already. And if you don't know what 4D mixing is, don't worry about it. I can share it with you at some point in the future. It's one of the things I do, I've given as a mission. So the mission, Make Music Your Life, people may know what that is. So I will create a 4D mixing image, or I'll review my existing image, if I've already got one, obviously, and then I'll set a 45-minute timer. So here you can see what I've done here. You don't have to do it like this, but what I've done here is that I've actually identified from the results received what the new start habit is going to be. So you could link it all. So you're actually solving that problem with a new habit. Does that make sense? If there are any questions coming in, Luke or Arash, please let me know so that I can stop and address them as they're happening. Yeah? Is everyone following this?
Somebody asked, any tips on discovering what your strengths might be?
A lot of people ask me that.
Okay. I will get. I'll get to that. Let's just finish this process, and then remind me if I forget that we will talk about that after we've actually done this weekly planning thing, because this is really important. Again, it's one of the things like the free writing, where you think, oh God, it's just extra time. I mean, why don't you just get on with it and then you just end up like, watching YouTube videos. Actually defining what you're doing out of the process of life is going to help you actually do things. And it doesn't mean that you're going to be perfect, doesn't mean that you're going to get everything right, but let's just take a bit of time to do this, okay? So, what we've done this week, what I've done to simplify it for you, is I've linked the stop habit to the start habit to the stop habit. Yeah. So Luke, have you got any ideas for what you're going to put in these 2 boxes, stop habit and start habit?
Yeah, I was thinking about last week. I said if I get the urge to check social media, I'll check Asana, and I think I'm going to do the same stop, but have splurging be the start, because I feel like Asana, after you check it a few times, it's kind of like, okay, I've seen what's going on here. Where splurging is like still new, and I think it's the brain just craving some like new thing. So I think that's what I'm going to do.
Oh, okay, great. So you've actually noticed that there was a problem with your previous experiment, if you like. Your previous solution for checking social media didn't work properly.
Right.
Yeah. So you're deciding to do something slightly different to see if it works better and to make more music. Arash, have you got any ideas for stop and start habit? And if you don't worry, let me know and we can talk it through, because this will be helpful to people to see how we actually come up with these things.
I don't at the moment.
So what's the thing? What's the thing that you would like to stop more than anything else?
I think so. I stopped Instagram, but I'm still on Facebook, man.
Okay. All right. So let's just say you want to stop Facebook. I mean, would that be a good thing to do? Just for a week, just for 7 days?
If yes, that'd be a good thing to do, as long as I can just plan a few posts to come up for my work.
Okay.
For my group.
Okay. So essentially, one of the things you might want to put on a list of things to do is schedule posts in Facebook at a particular time. Put a time and date on it. Yeah. Now, this isn't a stop or start habit. This is just something you need to do in order to make it possible for you to do the stop habit. Yeah.
Yes.
I can't get everything on one sheet of paper, right? So, but that's something that you would need to do. So let's just assume that you've taken that action to schedule some posts in Facebook for the next week. Yeah.
Okay.
So when you get the urge to stop Facebook, what could you start doing that would be helpful to you? It doesn't have to be music; it could be something else. But what could you start doing that would be helpful to you? And try and make it as close to it as possible. It doesn't have to be, but
as close to helpful as possible?
well, it could be. When I say as close to it, as close to checking Facebook. Does that make sense?
Uh-huh. So I should check my email. Something like that?
Yes. That would be close to Facebook, but I'm not sure it's a good idea. I'm not meant to say that as a coach, but as your mentor. Because coaching, if you didn't know, is meant to be more non-directive of that than that. But anyway, so is there something else that might be less other people's to-do lists than email? Where do you tend to check Facebook?
When I go to post.
Yeah, but what is it on is it on the computer?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So what could you do on your computer which would be more productive than checking Facebook?
I can open Kindle.
Right.
And keep reading some of the books I have.
Okay, so
Actually,
let's put yeah. Go on. Sorry.
Yeah, that's the move, because then I'm not mindlessly scrolling. I'm taking in valuable information.
You're mindfully scrolling.
Yeah.
Okay. So
you could install Newsfeed Eradicator too.
yes.
Oh yeah,
that.
mentioned that.
Yeah. So
That's great.
So in the start habit, you'd say, then I will open Kindle and read for 3 minutes, 5 minutes. Make it really short. Yeah.
Yeah, 3 minutes is great.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. So hopefully that was helpful, that you can start to get how to fill out this sheet. Okay. Now, next box, practice focus. Okay. So what area do you want to get better at in your music? Why don't you post in the chat? What area would you really like to get better at in your music? Now, given what we've talked about in terms of playing to your strengths, I would recommend focusing on an area just for this week that you are already good at. Yeah, be like a soccer player. Yeah, and be practicing the thing you're already good at. Be David Beckham, practicing the corner kicks over and over again. Yeah. Now I'm showing my age. Anyway, I haven't watched football for a long time, so since I've come to Australia. Anyway, so when I improvise, I think I naturally come out with hooks quite easily. But one of the things I've noticed in this new project, for various different reasons that I've been doing, is that it's like the hooks aren't coming as quickly for various different reasons. So what I've decided to do is focus on a strength of mine, a natural strength of mine, and I've decided that my area of focus is going to be hooks. Yeah, and if you're stuck on an area, remember paths: payoff, arc, thing, hook, space. One of those. Yeah, that's a good way of thinking about it. Yeah. So my area of focus is splurging color hooks. Can anybody else? Can you read some of the comments? What people are saying about where they're going to focus their practice?
Rick Stubbs, sound design and choice. Concrete Air, arrangement. Ben Miller, drum parts.
Right.
Safe Nate, neo soul chord arrangements. Son of a Preacher, arranging. Keon Gass is sound design. Robin says verse chorus transitions.
Yep.
B Mono says, I'd like to be more confident in my hooks. I bring that up to say, like, that's not a strength, right? Like, what is your strength, B Mono? If you feel like hooks is not it, there has to be something. So what is that right now at the time?
Yeah. Yeah, and just to be clear, so just to be clear, we're not always going to necessarily be focusing our practice on what we're already good at or what our strengths are. I'm just saying for this week. But anyway, what were you about to say, Ardash? Sorry. Yeah.
I was going to keep going. Keep going.
Okay, no, let's leave it there. Okay, so people have some areas of focus now for their specific practice. Now, what I want you to do in the next box, and this is an additional box, yeah, is I want you to think of a practice drill that you can do in around 10 minutes every day, which will mean that you do practice that thing. Yeah, so we're really sharpening up this practice idea. So for instance, what I have put in there is I will splurge loads of Gestalt answering phrases. Now, you're not going to know what that means. I will share this in a future. In fact, I'll probably do it next session. Okay. I think most people know about answering phrases in relation to hooks. If you don't, what I will do actually, and I'll put this up after the session. Luke, can you remind me? Can you put it into my Asana? Is I will put one or maybe even two of my masterclasses about hook writing, and one of them I go really kind of into what answering phrases are. So if you don't know about answering phrases, don't worry. Go to the resources afterwards, and they'll all be in there. The masterclasses will be in there. But on top of this, I've also developed this idea, and it's based on Gestalt principles of how human beings process information. Of what I've realized is that's why certain hooks are like they are. Yeah, really, really great hooks are like they are because they follow these Gestalt principles. So I figured out what these things are, and I'm going to splurge using this kind of method. And I'm going to share with you next week, because we're going to focus on hooks as part of the path methodology. I'm going to share with you some of the ideas you can use to create better hooks. But anyway, I'm going to be splurging loads of Gestalt answering phrases in 10 minutes. Okay, so I've got these particular rules that I'm going to set for myself, and I'm going to just splurge with those rules, and I'm going to do that for 10 minutes every day. Okay, and then when I fall off, I am going to reduce the time I'm doing it by 9 minutes. So when I don't do it on a day, I'll do it for 9 minutes. And when I don't do it on another day, I'll do it for 8 minutes. So if this time next week I'm only doing it for 3 minutes, you'll know that I haven't done it a single day. Anyway, so Luke, have you got an idea for your practice drill here?
Yeah, I've got two. I'm curious if you would consider one of these practice.
Yep.
I was going to say transcribe, something, because that's a skill that I've wanted to get better at. And I did it this morning, and I was like, oh, that was great. So I was thinking I would transcribe for 10 minutes every day, and if I fall off, I'll just find like I'll pick probably some like rock and roll song and just transcribe the vocal melody, something super simple. Does that sound like a good practice?
Yeah. No, that sounds great. Can I just check though? What is the purpose of wanting to be able to transcribe? I just want to check. As your coach, I just want to make sure that we're actually getting the biggest lever here.
I think one, when I found that when I do it makes my listening better. Mm-hmm. To even my own music.
Yep.
And every time I've done it consistently, it's like I'm able to listen to what I'm doing. Like my direct listening improves a lot.
Fantastic. Okay, I just wanted to check. One more question: is there something else that will give you a bigger and immediate result? And by the way, I'm not asking you these questions because I think it's a bad idea. This is just me checking.
Not that I think of off the top of my head, but it's certainly possible that there could be, and maybe I should think about that.
Write that down as a question to ask yourself. It's a great one, by the way, what you've said, but like the whole point of momentum is that we are looking for the biggest breakthroughs immediately at all times, and those things change, right? so for me, in listening to the ideas, the many ideas that I've made, even though when I improvise, I seem to be able to come up with good hooks quite easy, because of the ways that I'm doing things, that's sort of been lost a bit. So my biggest, if I just, in processing the music that I've done with using Pass, I've realized, well, there's not a lot of hooks going on here, right? But I know I'm already good at them. So I just need to sort of re-engage with that. So that's kind of my biggest breakthrough. Does that make sense? Okay. And then in the final box, I want you to actually focus on results. So if we focused in the boxes 4 and 5 on your practice, we're also just going to set some results. So I'm going to say I'm shooting for 3 into my done column, and in that done column, because that's where we do the preparation for release in the automatic music machine, I'm going to get 3 tracks mixed. Now that's, for me, a huge stretch goal given everything that's going on right now. I'm not sure I'll do it, but I don't mind that. I like to set big goals on the understanding that, shoot for the stars and you're likely to hit the moon. That's kind of how the approach I take. Okay. So Arash, what results are you shooting for this week?
I'm shooting to get 5 splurges done, and with my practice goal of drum programming practice, I want to get 3 new drum loops done.
Okay, fantastic. Let's have a look. Can others can you post in the chat what your kind of goals are? And everybody, every time we read out a goal, click the like button, so that we can yay everybody. Okay. What results are people putting in this box?
Nothing just yet.
Yeah, there's a gap, obviously.
Oh, is your timer on?
My timer?
The free write scene is up right now.
Is it?
Yeah.
It doesn't look like it is to me.
Oh.
Strange. Anyway. Okay, I've got. Oh, there we go. Yeah.
I'm seeing MJ Smith, 20 splurges, 1 into done.
Right.
Rick Stubbs.
Like.
Rick Stubbs, 1 tune finished.
Like.
Dilemma. That's not a goal, because you are gathering 5 samples versus doing something. I don't know if I don't know. Mike, what do you think? Dilemma says gather 5 samples and sample packs.
Gather 5 samples and sample packs. I mean, if you're creating the sample packs, then I guess it would be yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think rather than somebody else's sample packs, I guess. So.
Yeah. Okay. So if you're creating them, Dilemma, then great goal. Jake, I want to learn to spurge properly.
Hang on. So that isn't a goal exactly. How you make a goal like that we're talking about? So, in general, I want people to take their focus off results. But in general, I want them to start focusing on the practice, right? But, hang on. Results are useful in a sense. Focusing on results are useful almost as a tool for us to know what direction to go in and to motivate us, yeah? So when we're setting these results, these aren't we're not setting these results in order to beat ourselves over the head with them, but we're just giving ourselves a tool. So I'm saying 3 into done and 3 mixed, which I'm not sure I can do this week, right? But I'm setting it as a way of kind of keeping me on track. But that I will know at the end of the week if I have done that or not. It's like it's a yes or a no. Saying I want to get better at splurging, how will you know that you have got better at splurging? So a more useful result, a goal, is I'm looking to do 28 splurges this week, or 14 splurges this week, or however many you've got time to do. Does that make sense? Because if you achieve that goal, when you achieve that goal, you will have got better at splurging. If that makes sense. Okay. So keep going.
Okay. Sync Lab. Make at least 3 splurges a day. That's per day. Sync Lab, rewrite your goal for what you want to have done by the end of the week.
Yeah. So 3 times 7. Yeah.
Yep. Coastals, 3 tracks and done, 4 and release. Like.
Yes. Awesome.
Zachary, at least 1 and done. Like.
Fantastic.
Andrej, I'm sorry if I'm saying your name incorrectly. My goal is to finish a track I'm working on the last 3 days. So finish 1 track and finish 5 splurges.
Fantastic.
Like.
So we're getting the idea. So these results are things that that are kind of very specific and measurable. Yeah. Now, do not, when you don't achieve this, or if you don't achieve this, do not beat yourself over the head with it. Yeah, this is a tool. Goals are wings, not chains. So let's just quickly, before we get on to the bit where we talk about the releasing and how I'm releasing and that kind of thing, let's just quickly, what was the thing that I was supposed to talk about? I've completely forgotten. Strengths, how to identify your strengths. Yes. So how to identify your strengths. Number 1, what do you enjoy the most? What area of music making do you enjoy the most? That's one indication, not always true, but one indication that it is a strength. Now, bear in mind, in terms of strengths, it's relative to yourself. Because some people go, I haven't got any strengths, my music's terrible, right? So, yes, your strength, listen to, insert legendary artist. If I compare, I haven't got any strengths at all. No. You have things that you are better at than other things. So you're comparing yourself to yourself. This is a really important concept to understand. Social media and all of that stuff out there has got the entire world, well, not the entire world, but a vast majority of the world comparing themselves to everyone else. And it is not good for your mind. And it's not good for your progress. It's not good for your success. It's not good for a whole heap of things. How you make progress is by comparing yourself to yourself. And one of the ways that you can start doing that is by actually figuring out what you are better at than other things that you're not so good at. Yeah. So one of the things is, what do I enjoy doing in the process more than anything else? What comes more easily to me than anything else? What maybe do I discount as like, oh, everyone can do that. Oh, Luke's disappeared. Anyway, what do I discount? Let me see if I can go to this screen. There we go. Yeah. What do I discount? Thinking, well, anyone can do that. Because actually it's not true that anybody can do that often. Okay? So yeah, that's how you'll kind of figure out what your musical strengths are. Again, it's strengths in relation to other things that you do, not to other people. Okay? What would you say your musical strengths are, Ardash?
Arrangement, vocals, vocal production, and chopping up samples.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so does anybody have any questions about that? I don't know what's happened to Luke.
So some people are saying your stop-start examples have been not clear. Can you clarify those? Or obscure? I don't remember.
So, okay. So my stop-start examples are obscure. Okay. So what is the examples are really there as a, what is the thing that you want to stop doing? and what can you replace it with? Yeah, that you want to start doing. That's the question to ask yourself. So in my case, yeah, when I do, and let's call it a release prep session. So what a release prep session for me is basically the bit where I'm getting something ready for release. So I'm talking about mixing and mastering. Yeah. I mean, there's other stuff as well, but basically that's basically it. So when I do a session like that, yeah, I'm going to use these processes, yeah. So you don't need to worry about exactly what I'm doing, because that's stuff that I'm doing. I've given myself a list of things to do in order to stop basically tweaking all the time. Yeah. So that's yeah. Does that make sense? So my problem that I identified in my results received from last week, that I was tweaking too much. So I decided to apply this stop habit and start habit to that problem. Yeah. So my habit is that when I'm doing a mix, I start like just going into the tweak rabbit hole of doom, right? So I've decided to say, when I do a mixing session, which is when the thing happens, when the bad habit happens, yeah, I'm going to do these things, which will stop me from, I'm going to start doing these things, which will stop the bad habit from happening. Does that make more sense? Yeah, I now understand. I now understand why people were confused. I get it. So I will attempt in the future to make those kinds of things clearer. Fabulous. Okay, so now let's move on. Hello again, Luke. You disappeared. I'm not sure we can hear you as well. Is your audio there? Yeah. Anyway, I will keep going. So now we're going to talk about the business side of things, and the music business side of things, because really, in talking to a lot of people over the last couple of weeks via email, essentially, I think they're, broadly speaking, music producers are split. I mean, there's lots of different ways to split them up, but are split into two categories: those who are struggling to make music at all, struggling to finish music, and those who are not struggling to finish music, but who are struggling to kind of get heard. Right? And obviously there are those who are already successful as well. I'm talking to some people like that too. But essentially the majority of people are in one of those two buckets. And just out of interest, who is in the struggling to finish music bucket, and on the other side, who is struggling to get heard? Let's just get some comments going to find out. And I'll keep talking for a bit, and then we can find out. Let's just do a quick poll. Now, obviously, the first thing that we need to do is finish a lot of music, because that's how we get better. Yeah, and also then that gives us something to release. But one of the let's just assume you have done that. Yeah. What you then need to do is figure out how you're going to make make an impact on the world, right? And the problem is that the music industry as a whole really is stuck and has been stuck in a past way of doing things, which is based upon the physical world. And it kind of doesn't make any sense. I mean, it makes a bit of sense, but it makes sense where it's come from, but it doesn't make any sense, because most music now, and particularly since the pandemic, is experienced in the digital world. And the digital world has very, very different rules and kind of assumptions kind of baked into it. Yeah. Now, just so you know, on the coaching site, in the resources, I am including a couple of videos which I've taken from my LEAP program, which are going to be describing the exact model that I'm talking about, what I suggest that you do, the way that you think about it, okay? And it's called the magnet model. And I've included those in the coaching site, and I will open them up to you after this. So I'm not going to go into the details of exactly, you know, the ins and outs of what the magnet model is, but I'm just to just describe to you why it's important. Because what I'm going to do, and also what Arash is going to do, and what Luke is going to do next year, is that we are going to release one track every week for the whole of 2021. Okay? Now, Arash, why do you think, and we're going to do it ourselves, right? So we're not going to do it on, well, we're not specifically going to go to other labels. We are going to be releasing the music ourselves. So, Arash, what are the reasons that you think that's a good idea?
For us releasing our own music, that we start building up, one, our own catalog of music.
Yep.
That's out there to the world. Two, that in doing so, it offers an opportunity for us to develop a fan base. And three, we're doing it on our own terms. It's our creative, my creative control. It's all my decisions. I don't have outside influences telling me what to do. It's purely on my terms.
Yeah, great. And Luke, what are the reasons? So there's some great reasons that you decided that this is a good idea. What are some of the reasons that you're doing this?
Well, okay, so there's like internal and external. I think internally, like in my own studio room practice, because I've done it in the past and it was really good for getting that, you know, finishing practice where then you can go back and look, like, as you've said many times, there is something that happens when you actually finish a track versus just have it like almost finished. And I think like having that consistent release deadline, it forces you to make decisions. It forces you to actually finish a track that you can then look back on. I mean, externally, it's like Arash said, it's putting the power in your hands. It's allowing you to build an audience that you can connect with that, you know, you're not going to be like sitting on some platform or signed to some label, and then when someone else decides that they want to change it, it totally messes up what you were doing, which happens to people all the time. And then also, like, something that just happened to me, I saw a submission for I think it was somebody looking for like reality TV music, and they posted these 3 songs as examples, and there were probably like 8 or 9 tracks that came from the releasing one track a week. That I would not have had finished had I not done the one track a week, that were perfect for this submission. So it's building up that library for when random opportunities to use music come to you, you have that ready to go and ready to submit.
Yeah, exactly. So essentially, there are very, very many good reasons for doing it. But I can tell you right now that what has happened with the pandemic has destroyed what was already a broken business model. It's completely and utterly, like, it's flamed out. Now, I'm not saying this is a good thing, because it's meant that a lot of people have lost their livelihoods, and that is absolutely terrible. And it's affected my business as well. And I talk to a lot of people who are in all kinds of dire straits. So I'm not saying this is a good thing. I just want to make that very, very clear. But what is true to say is that the business model of the music industry was broken anyway. It was killing people. It was destroying lives. And it was because it was based upon touring, essentially. Yeah. The majority of the money, I mean, obviously there are different, so there's sync licensing and there's publishing and things like that, but the majority of the kind of ongoing money was made through touring. And the problem is with touring is that it's the non-scalable item. It's the non-scalable product, because you need to be there in a particular place at a particular time, and you play to a finite number of people. And what is it that promotes the touring? What promotes the touring?
Music.
Right, the music, which is the scalable item. You put something up on Spotify and it could theoretically have, 500 billion plays eventually. Yeah, so it's scalable. You do it once and it keeps on doing its thing, right? So essentially what happened with the internet is the business model flipped from non-scale, because what it used to be was the touring promoted the music. The touring, the non-scalable item, promoted the music scalable item. Now, half the music industry hasn't got this, but what has actually happened since the internet is flipped, is that music promoted the touring. That's not going to work unless you're earning an absolutely enormous amount of money from each gig, which some people were doing. Not anymore. Right? This is an interesting and pretty terrible thing as well, is that the touring model, which was broken anyway, as I keep saying, for most people. I mean, even the people at the top, a lot of the clients who I was coaching, they were really struggling with their health because of the reliance on touring, even with earning the eye-watering amounts they were earning. Yeah. But despite all of that, essentially, what that model was based upon was two things: massive gigs with huge crowds. Are they going to come back in the way they have before? And if so, when? Since COVID, are we going to be allowed to gather in massive groups of thousands and thousands of people? Possibly, possibly not. I don't know. If so, when? Are people going to want to do that? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Right? That's the first thing. Second thing, and there's a lot of uncertainty around that. Something that is much more certain is the other thing that the touring model was based upon was cheap air travel. Is cheap air travel going to be a thing with half the world's airlines going down the tubes? I don't know. Possibly not. Maybe that's a bit more certain. Right? And what I see out there is this model, which, as I already said, which was already broken, is now, it's just like, in pieces. Now, as I said, this isn't a good thing. It's just a thing. Okay, but even before the pandemic, I've been jumping up. I mean, how long have I been jumping up and down about people building music businesses which aren't reliant on unsustainable touring? I mean, it's been like, I actually stopped making music and stopped touring when I realized it was unsustainable for me back in 2010 or 11. Right, so I've been banging this drum for a long time. Yeah, it's not that I'm anti-touring. It's not that I'm anti-gigs. It's not that at all. It's that I've recognized that this just wasn't right. It wasn't a good thing to be putting all your eggs in that basket. Yeah. And so I started building this coaching business. I had a kid, apart from anything else. So I had my first kid. I've now got 4 of them. But I had my first kid, and I realized I didn't want to be away all the time. Some people do, and that's absolutely fine. I've got no judgment here. But I didn't want to be away all the time as well. Right? So I said, I'm not going to do this. I tried other things. I tried doing advertising, music. I tried, and I just wasn't. I wasn't feeling it. So what I decided to do was start this coaching business, because I've been wanting to help people for a long time. And in the building of this coaching business, I realized how online business works, and that music is actually no different. I mean, it is different, obviously, but in the basic terms, it is no different from any other kind of business. And this is a mistake that the music industry makes all the time, that it thinks that it is totally different to anything else. And it's not. It's not online. Yeah. Evidence of it is, where do people discover music now? They discover music in exactly the same place as they talk to their friends, in exactly the same place as they, I don't know, see adverts about sunglasses. And it's all on a feed now. Yeah. So music is simply another type of business that you can actually build a business around. Okay? And when I realized this, and also realized that I already knew that the music promoted the touring. I also realized the mistake that people were making was that they were thinking, I mean, it's obvious because it is the product, right? Is music the product, or is music the thing that you use to promote the product? It's kind of both. So a useful way I now think about my music that I'm making is that the product is membership of my tribe, yeah, as an artist, and what I'm using to promote membership of my tribe is the music I'm going to release. Yeah, and how we build this thing is with the magnet model. So are there any questions at this point about this?
No.
No.
Not so much. People are excited about the track a week and are wondering in particular why you would want to do that. We touched on it a bit, but
Great.
No other
Cool.
questions.
Okay, so I will go into exactly why I want to do it. Right. So hang on a minute. Oh, my iPad. I don't know if anyone's got one of those old iPad Pros where the screen stops working every now and again. It's very frustrating. Anyway. Okay, so here's why I want to do it. So when I, first of all, okay, so coming back to the music promoting membership of the tribe, there was a huge problem at the point when I realized that this is what you could do with music. And that was, well, what I need to help people do is make the quantity of music at sufficient quality in order to make that viable, right? Because in my coaching business, I can make a video and put it out there, and make a valuable video, yeah? Or I can do a live stream like this, yeah? And I can help people, I can actually give people the value, which will mean that some of them end up actually buying the things that I'm selling. It's not that I'm only doing it to do that. I'm doing it to give value to people, but also the side effect of it is that the business works as well. Exactly the same is true of music. But the problem was with music, for me, was that it took me an enormously long amount of time to finish pieces of music. I mean, enormously long is a relative term, so not enormously long compared to a lot of people, but too long compared to, for instance, making a video, which is where the automatic music machine came from. Okay, I don't think it's an overstatement to say that releasing a track a week is not going to be an enormous problem for any of us, because we have this automatic music machine a system. Okay, so once I figured out we kind of got that system in place and it was working for people. Okay, the next thing was, okay, so is my theory that that I can do the same thing as I'm doing in my business with my music, is that actually just a theory, or is there some truth to it? So what I did was I did an experiment. So I finished an album. This is the first thing I did when I came back to making music. I finished an album, right? And I released it on Beatport and using only the magnet model. I didn't do any PR, didn't do any press, didn't do any DJ mailouts. It wasn't on any other label. I made up my own label. My logo was literally me writing Interplanetary Music Machine on on a black square, right? So that was the logo. Didn't do any of that at all. Only used the magnet model, which was about engaging with people, my tribe, and giving them what they wanted. Yeah. In fact, I'll show you. Hang on a minute. Where are we? So it's here, you can see top 10 releases. This is the whole of Beatport. It got to number 2. So bear in mind, this is a single, $4.38. This was $20, yeah, and I got it to number 2. This was with using absolutely zero. I didn't do anything against the Beatport terms of service. Didn't do anything dodgy whatsoever, right? And I've also included a video. It's the video that I've just shown you here. I've included a video explaining that, right? So that's in the resources as well. That'll be in the resources after this show. Okay. So my early test, and bear in mind, I did this campaign to a list of people who hadn't signed up for my music. So that was a problem, right? And I didn't just promote my music. I actually did it in a context of something that they actually wanted. Okay, so it would have worked way better had I done it to people who had actually signed up to my music. Plus, because I didn't communicate effectively to my team, they didn't send this campaign to any of my, I don't know if it was any, but they've segmented out clients, students, and all of the people who were most likely to buy the album, right? So, and it still got to be the #1 album. Remember, it was the album on the whole of Beatport. This was in 2018. Okay, so yes, this is just Beatport, and Beatport is, kind of immaterial in some ways, but it is an indication. I was up there with massive music producers. The guy at the top was on a major label. I was on a made-up label, right? I hadn't released anything for almost a decade. I hadn't done any PR, any press or anything. So this was just about me using the relationship I built with my direct relationship I built with my audience. So that was an early test showing, okay, so this could definitely work. The second test I did was with one of my clients. Where is he? Have I got it up? No, I haven't. I'll see if I can find the video and put it up. Basically, Claude Von Stroke. I was like, okay, well, so it definitely works with a made-up artist. Let's talk about an established artist. So basically, I coached him through. Actually coached him through the writing of the album. I coached him in essentially building his own kind of fan email list. He released his album, and his got to #1 on Beatport as well, and did really well there. Okay, so those early tests, they were almost like an early verification that yes, my theory that the music business is just like any other business, and the same things can work, because I was there competing with the absolute top people on a platform. It was another indication that it was going to work. Now, I intended to follow this up very, very quickly by doing more, and just the business kind of took over, and I didn't continue. So in 2021, I didn't continue releasing music. So in 2021, I decided to do what I intended to do immediately after the Beatport release, but I decided to make it even more difficult for myself, because that was using Mike Monday. And people could say, oh, but Mike, you already had an existing audience from 10 years ago of fans and everything. I was like, okay, well, let's try and make it more difficult. So I'm going to make an entirely new artist name. This guy is called Zentor, and there's a whole concept around it, and there's a particular way that I'm doing things, which will explain why I'm finding it harder to write hooks using that. But there's a whole thing around it. It's called Zentor, and because that will make it more difficult for me. And it will be a better test. It will be a better demonstration, right? Of course, it won't be a perfect demonstration because I'm telling all of you folks about it. So there's no way that I could do it really, and it'd be useful to you without there being some kind of muddying of the waters. Yeah, but we've got other people doing it as well, right? So I'm not the only one who's doing this track a week thing. Okay, so I'm doing it as Zentor. The other thing that to make it more difficult for myself is that I am not making it pop. I'm not making it commercial. Ardash and Luke, you've listened to some of the early ideas. Is it weird?
A little left of center.
Yes, it's not.
It kind of, yeah. To me, it's not. But it's not like. If my mom listened to it, she would think it was weird.
Yeah, right. Mind you, if my mum listened to almost anything, she'd think it was weird. But so for instance, one of the things I sent to you, one of the early things I sent to you, Luke, and you said, I don't think I've ever heard anything like this before. And I'm not sure you were saying it in a good way, by the way. Right? How would you categorize it?
I'd call it electronica, which is kind of just like, it's electronic. And
Yeah, which means
weird.
I don't know what it is. Yeah, right. So I'm making it more
Exactly.
difficult for myself because I'm just doing what I want to do. It's like I'm not going for commercial. I mean, there may well be like vocal samples and things like that, but I'm not doing vocals. I'm not doing that. I'm going to do this. I'm going to see what happens when I build an audience, like just going for the jugular in terms of sort of being an artist, if you like. So, I mean, I don't know what will happen, but I am confident that I am going to be able to build a secure and stable business around this music. It's not going to happen probably in a year. It's probably not going to happen in a couple of years. But that, I mean, I built this current business, Make Music Your Life, the coaching business. I mean, how long have I been doing this? Almost a decade now. And even though the pandemic has caused all kinds of things to happen, I still think it's fairly secure and stable. So any business does take time to build. But I think this is one of the core insights that I want you to get out of this call. A music business has been based upon massive hits, massive artists and massive success, and then nothing else. That isn't the only way. Of course, I want you to get that success, but it's kind of like a lottery. We don't want to optimize for only that type of success, thereby destroying the ability to create another type of success. Yeah? Play the long ball game. Yeah? I understand that you can play the long ball game and build this thing over time, because that will actually make it more likely that the short ball game will happen. Right? You're not actually losing anything by building a magnet model business, because you're doing the same things, right? But they're in the context of a broader system. So hopefully that's cleared up what I'm doing in terms of the magnet model, and in terms of building this business, and why I'm doing it. As I said, there's going to be videos about what the magnet model is, an overview of it and how it's different to what the rest of the music industry is doing. I'll include the video about the Beatport results on there as well. And I'll see if I can look out the Claude Von Stroke video. I might not be able to find it, where he talks about how we released his album too. But basically, I will be showing you the building of this business. We will be showing you the building of our businesses over the course of these Momentum Monday sessions. We're going to be focusing on music as well, but the way I'm thinking about doing it at the moment is 1 week we'll be more focused on kind of music insights, and then another week we'll be focused on what I'm calling money insights, building the business. So, do we have any questions? About anything. Doesn't have to be about the magnet model, because the other thing I just wanted to say was that I'm going to do everything I can in my power to make the content section, so the bit where we do the coaching and then we do the teaching, an hour and a half, 90 minutes. So the questions will last at the end for half an hour, so that you can be sure, if you need to go, that the content section will be done after 90 minutes. So I did 93 minutes today, so we did quite well.
Nice. Yeah, I was gonna comment on. I've seen a few people talking about the track a week thing and thinking about doing it. And like when I did it, I didn't really, I didn't think I could do it, and then I did it. And the first month it was like and then it kind of just became a like a natural part of my week. It was almost like, showering or something. It just kind of becomes like a thing that you're doing. And then you end up getting like so much practice from releasing that I don't know. It's just great on so many different levels.
Yeah. So Arash, you did a song a week. I mean, it wasn't like a fully finished song, but you were doing that kind of a project, weren't you? So, I mean,
I was.
Yeah. How? Can't remember. How long did you do that for?
It ended up working out to like a track every other week, but lasted about, how long did it last for? Almost a year.
Mm-hmm.
For sure, half a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. So what are you going to do differently this time, which will ensure that you do a track a week and keep it up for the whole year? What did you learn from that experience, which you're going to apply to this new project that we're doing in 2021?
Yeah, I think I'm going to definitely have a catalog ready in preparation. And what I was also doing was singing the songs and filming myself. So I won't be doing that as much. I was doing it for each song. Maybe I'll do like one music video for a song a month, but that's not even the important part. The most important part is releasing the music every week. So that I think will help really streamline the process.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, if you remember, do you remember the question, the lightning rod that we asked last week, which was if you had to release a track every day for the rest of your life and the music had to improve in quality, what would you have to do or something? It was something like that. Well, that was the question that I asked in order to prepare for this 2021 thing. And that is the question that brought this whole Zentor project into life, which is because what I'm doing, I mean, does anybody know who the best, and I think you Luke and Arash already know the answer to this question. Does anybody know who the best chess player is at the moment in the world? Anybody got any ideas who the best chess player is in the world?
I know the answer, but I won't say it.
No, it's all right. Yeah, don't say it. Any ideas? Anyone in the comments? Okay, so it's a bit of a trick question because the best chess player in the world isn't a chess player. It's actually a combination of human and machine. And what it's called is a centaur. And so it's like AI. I'm not sure AI is the right exact term, but anyway, let's not get into that. But it's sort of AI and human beings together. Yeah, make this thing called a centaur, and that is the best chess player in the world. It's so at the moment anyway is unbeatable. Okay, and I had to think about that, and it was Gary Kasparov that sort of introduced me to that idea. Not that I know him, I just I think I listened to an interview or something. And I was thinking about that in terms of music. I was like, that's awesome. I was like, there's a lot that you can do in terms of music right now, obviously. Generative music and everything like that. Thing is that what I've noticed is that a lot of people seem to either do completely generative music or completely live music. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, okay, one of the things that frustrates me or has frustrated me for a long time about making music is making music in a DAW specifically is being kind of on the grid and not feeling like I'm actually sort of playing with someone. So I was like, how about I set up some, sequences and generative sort of stuff. Very simple, not like fully modular, but kind of very simple Euclidean sequences and things like that. And I set these things playing and, you've got random probabilities that certain things are going to happen. And I can almost like play these sequences, yeah, in a sense, and create these sort of track. And then I will actually improvise over the top. So it's as if I'm playing with the AI. Yeah, it's almost like I've got a band, right? And that is the idea behind the Zentor project, is that I'm making music in this very different way, which involves kind of leveraging. I mean, it's not really AI, but essentially what you're setting up is algorithms for things to do certain things at certain times, some of them at random, and then I'm working with those things in sort of improvising. And, there are certain instruments that I've chosen. And that's the idea behind this whole project. And the reason for it, one of the reasons for it, is because I asked myself that question. Because the other, one of the elements of that question is that if I was going to release a track every day, not only would it have to be much quicker than I was doing before, but I'd have to be excited to do it, right? Yeah, it couldn't be boring because otherwise I wouldn't do it. And one of the ways that I realized that I need, because I've played in bands a lot is that I felt I needed to be interacting with someone, I thought. But I thought, well, it doesn't have to be someone, does it? It could be something. So that's where this kind of idea came from. So do we have any? So do we have any questions from anyone?
Let's see. David just asked, how would your magnet model work for singer-songwriters and rock artists?
So
Probably about.
Exactly the same as it would for anyone else. If I'm saying that music is the same as, for instance, coaching, which is what I'm saying, then I can verify that one genre of music in terms of the business model is the same as another genre of music. Yeah, I mean, Ardash, why don't you, because you're a singer-songwriter, yeah? Yeah, so you're not I mean, you do have some projects where you're doing house and stuff, but that's not your thing specifically. I mean, you're a singer-songwriter, so how would the magnet model work for another genre outside of electronic?
It's the same thing, really. Like, it's principles are principles. Principles are principles. So it doesn't matter what you do. The process between someone like Mike and who's doing this Centaur project and myself would be the exact same thing. That we have to find the people that like our music, get them interested enough to want to listen to what we have to do, and then we have to constantly keep releasing music in order for our tribe to be continuously happy, that they're always in contact with some new stuff that we are creating. And that's the main principle, whether you do rock, underground hip hop, house music, death metal, doesn't matter. Yeah. It's all the same.
Yeah, or coaching, or plugins, or holidays, or books, or at the end of the day, a business needs two things. I mean, it needs more than that, but let's just keep it very simple. It needs a product. Hang on, I'm over here, aren't I? It needs a product. I've usually got more screen space to wave my hands around. So it needs a product, and it needs an audience who want that product. Yeah. That is, I mean, the most basic terms. Yeah, and it doesn't matter what kind of music you're making. The same is true. Yeah, and the problem is with the traditional music industry, the old music industry, the music industry that's now lying in ruins, is that it was all based upon these big events that happened at a certain time and a certain place. And that is how we think about promoting things. It's like, I've got this thing that I'm doing. I now need to promote that thing, rather than I've got this stuff which I will use to promote membership of my tribe, right? It's like we're flipping it again. Okay, so hopefully that's understandable. I mean, to be honest with you, none of the stuff that virtually none of the stuff that I teach, that I coach, is specific to electronic music. Of course, the examples I give are from that, because that's where I'm from. The automatic music machine, the magnet model, paths, simple sequence of masterful music, none of it has to be about electronic music. I wholeheartedly reject this siloing of thought around this kind of stuff. Of course, there are little tweaks. So, for instance, I did something on Beatport that would not be relevant to a singer-songwriter. Yeah, but again, the mechanics of what I was doing aren't specific to electronic music. Any other questions?
Somebody asked about incorporating lyric writing into splurging.
Shami D, what's your
Well, it's a whole thing, and I did see that question get asked. I don't know if you've already been part of the Leap, but the way that Mike and I had approached it, because that is it's a lot to do if you're not familiar with splurging, and it's not something that we recommend you do at the same time if you don't splurge. So I literally built up my splurging process, which is music creation process, for those who don't know what it is. And then at the same time was building up my lyric writing process. And at a certain point when those were well along, we started to merge the two. But it took time. And it now, I mean, in general, I can listen to something and come up with melodies and whatnot, but, and now I'm at a place where I can write as I go along, but I separated the two and got good or decent enough before I merged the two. So hopefully that's a clear explanation of what had happened. But it is possible to do both.
Yeah.
Within AMM.
So do you remember, Arash, that I don't know whether it's apocryphal or not, but and I can't even remember who it was that said it, but I think it was Billy someone. I think it was Billy Joel. Who's the other Billy? Anyway, there was some pop artist who he said the first time he met Stevie Wonder said, "Hey, my name's Stevie and I write a song a day." Yeah, and I was just like, "That's so cool." But he didn't start out by writing a song a day, and he probably started by doing a little piece of that song a day, and eventually you practice enough to do it. So if you are new to splurging, and by the way, if you don't know what splurging is, send me an email, mike@makemusicyourlife.com, and I will sort you out with a gift card for the Idea Explosion Challenge program where I teach splurging. But anyway, if you're not kind of familiar with splurging, or you're not good at splurging, or you find it difficult at this point, what I would recommend you do is just put aside the lyric writing part of it for now and just focus on doing the music part. I mean, if you're only a lyric writer, obviously what I'm saying now wouldn't make sense. But just learn the mental approach, the approach using something which in some ways is kind of easier in a way because it's less specific and things like that. So learn the entire approach by doing it with music, and then you can add lyric writing on the top. I mean, when I came back to making music, I actually had the idea that I might write songs. So I actually thought, well, I was a cool scholar at Oxford University, and I did singing lessons, and I might actually, why not try writing, actually singing. So I did that for a little while. So I did start to do splurging in lyrics. So if you are I'm sort of contradicting my previous advice, but if you are interested in giving it a go, what I did was I got my phone, I opened up notes, and I just said, right, for the next one, I remember I was sitting in my bed. And I know you shouldn't have your phone in bed, it's terrible. Anyway, so I was sitting in my bed, but I was doing something productive. So I was sitting in my bed, and I said, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write. I'm going to go free write lyrics. And I think I even posted them to you, didn't I, Arash? You remember?
I did.
Yeah. And it was just this long thing. And it was incredible. I mean, some of it was absolutely rubbish, didn't make any sense at all. But it was kind of like this thing where there were these little hooks, these little verses, these little choruses, and then just a load of crap. And then these that would pop out just because I was just splurging out lyrics. I didn't even know what I was talking about at times. So again, it's about just sort of letting go, because then what you have is this bunch of stuff that you can pull out and actually be more kind of intentional about what you're going to do with it. So if you don't want to not focus on the lyrics right now because you want to learn the approach, that is somewhere where you can start as well. So do we have any other questions at this point?
Octavio asked one, and he said, I'm in a divide between self-releasing and releasing on labels. And okay, so let me read that again. I'm in a divide between self-releasing, and then he said lack of confidence, and releasing on labels. I've had songs released recently through, especially since I have a DistroKid and CloudBounce account.
Okay, so Luke, what is the overarching error, like thinking mistake, which I go on about all the time, that Octavio is it? Is making here?
I think that he's kind of choosing an either or binary category,
Right.
versus like just trying to do both. Because you can self-release and release on labels.
Yeah, so this is what we do all the time. I mean, just go onto social media and watch people either oring themselves into into a hole. No, it's this. No, it's not. It's that. No, this, that. You're just like, oh my God. How about the other? Right? Because there's this, that's one thing. There's this, there's one thing. And there's that, there's the other thing. So there's that, right? That's another thing. Yeah, but then you've got the other, and the other is actually infinite, right? This and that are just two things, yeah? So it's not this or that. Which one do I do, right? How about some other options? Yeah, and we do it all the time, and it's such a overarching mistake that we make. Okay, so self-releasing one track a week, yeah, doesn't stop you from getting signed by other labels. I mean, they may well want you to stop releasing one track a week, which is a totally different matter. Some of them won't, though. The ones who understand how stuff works better, because they're not still in the old ways, may well understand that it doesn't matter. I mean, look at Russ. Okay? He's been releasing one track a week for however long, 2 years, something. Or longer, probably. I don't actually know. And he's got like 5 gajillion streams on Spotify or whatever. That didn't stop Atlantic from signing his album. And it didn't stop Atlantic from signing his album with him keeping the rights. Right? So they recognized that, and he's still releasing one track a week. Right?
Yeah.
So it's not an either or here. Yeah, we are like this. The fundamental problem that a lot of people still haven't got their head around is that we are now in a world of massive abundance in terms of content, in terms of music. Yeah, infinite shelf space. That now means that the idea of flooding the market, which people always go, yeah, but you're going to flood the market, yeah, is just, it doesn't make any sense anymore. Yeah. It doesn't work like that. But coming back to Octavia's question, you don't have to do both, right? So I'm not, when we say do both, you're like, well, no, that means I need to make even more music. So don't think of it like that. Just think, well, there's not necessarily, one doesn't preclude or stop you doing the other. Yeah. So the solution that I'm going for, and that Luke is going for, and that Arnash is going for, is that we're just going to get on and we're going to own our means of distribution, and we're going to release on our schedule. And if somebody wants to join the party and release our music, and we want to do that, well then, great. I'm not going to stop doing that just because I said I would self-release. It's not an either or. So have you got any other questions?
Agreed.
There was one question about the content for the Magna model. That's going to be in the course, right?
Yeah, so it's going to be on the coaching site. Let me just get the thing up. There we go. makemusicyour.life/courses/momentum-monday. Sorry about the really long link. There's not much I can do about it because of the coaching site. It's not available yet because I haven't made it available yet. I've got some things to upload and stuff, but I will do it later on today. Something to bear in mind is that because I don't want to get everybody overwhelmed, and there are going to be new people joining this all the time, and I don't want them to come to the course and there should be this like 5,000 things to catch up with. So the content's going to be on there for the week, and then the day before I'm going to remove the previous week's content and I'm going to put up the coming week's content, and it will not be available until after the session. Okay, so what I would suggest you do is come to the session, probably, go to bed or wait a few hours, because it's going to take me a little time just to get it all sorted and unlocked, and then go to the coaching site, get the things that I've been talking about, watch the things I've been talking about, and then it will go probably the day before the next session. So it will all be there in a few hours time, basically, and that will always be the case. At the moment, I'm doing it all myself just to make sure that I've got the systems down, and eventually I will give it to a team, so it will be more reliable in the future as to when it actually happens. And next week, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be focusing on, we're going to be doing some music, and we're going to be focusing on some hooks, on hook writing. Okay, so I'm going to put in the course, in the Momentum Monday course, I'm going to put a couple of those masterclasses that I talked about, and what I want you to be, if you want to do sort of a bit of extra prep for the session next week, maybe just do a little bit of research around answering phrases. Also, what you could do if you want to, for extra credit, is just do maybe a Google search for Gestalt principles, okay? And just think about how that might relate to the making of music as well. You don't have to do that, because I'm going to be showing you some of the ideas next week, okay? So, if we don't have any other questions at this point, do we have any questions at this point?
I answered them on the in the chat.
Okay. Fantastic. So if we don't, then
really,
oh yeah,
just sorry. Can you just so we're clear, these videos, they're not recorded?
No.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you have to be here to see it.
Yeah. What I'm going to do when we finish this, if people want to carry on talking, because I noticed that people were talking afterwards, I'm going to keep there's going to be an after party screen. Right, and there's going to be 10 minutes when we're not here, where it's still up, right, and counting down. But once that's done, basically, I'm going to take the video down. Now, the reason for that is not because I'm being mean or anything like that. It's that I know from experience that it will create more engagement and get accountability with what we're actually doing. Yeah, you're going to be way more focused, and therefore you're going to get much better results by making this an actual live thing that is live, and then it goes away. Remember, we're going to be doing this every week, so don't feel that if you can't make it a week, then everything is destroyed. This is an ongoing process. Okay, so yeah, and what I will be doing is making little videos out of the thing and putting those on YouTube. Yep. So little kind of sections of it. So it's not that you probably will never see any of it ever again, but it's really because I know that will help you get the best results from experience. This is not music production Netflix. Yeah, we're not here to learn about making music. We're not here to learn about building a magnet model music business. We're here to make music. We're here to actually build a magnet model business. Okay? Any other final questions?
Yeah, Robin of Loopsly asked an interesting question, just to clear this up, about the subconscious and the conscious mind. And so his whole thing is like, why do we tap into the unconscious mind or the subconscious? Like, why does that matter? Why would that have better answers than the rational mind?
Because the conscious mind is only very aware, is only able to be, I mean, by definition, can only be aware of very little at any given time, and can't remember everything. I mean, how many things can you remember at any one time? How many pieces of information can you hold in your head? Luke, can you give Robin some? I mean, that's a great question, Robin, and it's the reason I'm smiling is that you've got a wonderful. I mean, that you are asking that question means that you've got so many breakthroughs to be had. It's just insane. So, but Luke, can you maybe help Robin out with that wonderful question?
I mean, I think of it like, when you're when we're sitting here, like you have like, I think they say it's like 7 things that you can remember, 7 buckets.
I think it's less, but yeah.
Yeah, something like that. So, but then, I mean, think about what your brain is controlling. It's beating your heart. It's digesting your food. It's, I mean, monitoring like every part of your body. It's listening for sounds. It's filtering out sounds which are irrelevant to you. Like you have this massive thing going on behind your conscious mind. And when you kind of like let it out, it's like that the stuff it's been working on to try to help you out, and assuming that's what's going on, is kind of like tapped into and activated.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. And it's also just something like when you just start talking, just more comes out.
yeah, I mean,
know.
if you've been
The magic
struggling,
of being
yeah, I mean, if you've been struggling to do something, okay, or conversely, if you haven't been struggling to do something but you want to improve, right? You have, and I mean, it's not infinite, but it kind of feels infinite. Well of already existing knowledge, right, that you can actually tap into. Now, you can't tap into it in a conscious, it's not like you can go and choose it. It's much more kind of random than that, right? But you have an enormous amount of experience of which you are not aware right now. Yeah, you have an enormous amount of wisdom in there, which you can bring it out of yourself. And a lot of the reasons that you don't do things, I mean, I would say the majority of the reasons that you don't want to or can't or find it hard to do things are not, you probably don't, you're not aware of, right? So actually making yourself or attempting to bring into your awareness what some of those things could be, it's like, I mean, it changes so much. I mean, it can be so helpful. I'm trying to think of a book right now. In fact, Luke, can you add this to my list of things to do? To add is just a book recommendation, because I can think of one, but it's a bit. Oh, I tell you one. Actually, no. Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow by Daniel Kahneman.
What about the net butterfly?
Yeah, that would be really helpful. But I'll put it in the resources as well. But essentially, if you start to understand this distinction between the unconscious and the conscious, and how they interact with each other, and how your conscious processing is just a tiny fraction of what you can do. It's very important. It's what makes us human. Don't get me wrong. Well, I'm not saying that just be like completely unconscious about everything, but it's actually understanding about the interplay between those two things that can really make an enormous difference for your ability to do almost anything that you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, think about like how you learned to walk. You didn't consciously think like, I'm going to utilize my thigh muscle and my calf muscle. You just messed around a bunch, and your brain started to pick up patterns that you weren't even aware of. And one day you're walking. Like you never watched a tutorial. You never did anything like that. You just did it a bunch. And then your mind started noticing patterns. But like your mind is, if you ask your mind a question or identify a problem, whether or not you're thinking about it, it's like your mind, it's just a problem solving, pattern recognizing machine.
And like,
and whether or not you're doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, continue. If ever I do that, just continue. Don't worry about that.
I think I was done.
Yeah, okay, cool. So yeah, I mean, like, if you're thinking right now, this sounds like woo, it's not woo in the sense that you think it is. It's very, very, I mean, it's like it's very scientific. Yeah, I mean, some of it isn't. I mean, there are areas of it which are just, yeah. But what we're talking about here, this distinction between what you're not conscious of and what you are conscious of, it's just, it's very, very scientific. And I honestly, if you want to be rational, the only rational thing to do is to learn about the difference between your unconscious mind and your conscious mind. It's like the only logical thing that you can do with the information we now have as a human race. So Arash, was there another question?
Yeah, there were 2 more. So Blue Nile asked about last week you had talked about each song having a purpose. For example, an EDM song's purpose is to make people go nuts on the dance floor. We're curious to hear more examples of songs' purposes. They reference John Cage 433 was a great example. Do you have more examples?
Yeah. So what's the purpose of a piece of film music?
Convey emotion in film.
I don't think it's to make people go nuts on a dance floor. What's the purpose? So you know that track that I sent you, well, it's like a splurge basically. You remember the Norma Groovin track that I sent you, and I said, "What do you think of this?" And we all agreed that it wasn't working. But Luke, what was the purpose of that track? What did we talk about? What did we say? Why was it good? I mean, it was bad in some ways, but why was it good?
Well, it was connecting to the idea of what you're doing. I think it was like the robot being animated by the human, and it conveyed that well. And so, if someone was interested in thinking about music, the purpose would be to give them something to appreciate in that sense.
Right. So, what it was this absolutely banging techno groove. Yeah, that was just kind of changing all the time, and just doing this techno thing, and over the top was me. I mean, it was me just improvising over the top and actually figuring things out as well. So it was literally just a splurge. It was the first take, but I was playing these different chords, and so the techno thing was really, really robotic. It was like the robot, yeah, and me over the top. It was like you said, Luke, that it was like it kept reinterpreting. It was like kept reinterpreting this techno groove to make it kind of triumphant in 1 minute and then sad in another minute. And it was almost like it was kind of in creating some kind of humanity, if you like. And the whole idea of this project I mean, I think it's one of the most important questions of our time, is the intersection of human and technology. So, for instance, the purpose of that track, right? The core purpose is to actually get people to ask those questions. And one of the interesting ideas that we were talking about between us was, is it not working actually delivering that core purpose better than if it works, right? Because if it doesn't work, if people go, "Oh, hang on a minute, what's that? This doesn't work. This doesn't fit." That gets them to ask a question. Now, the problem then becomes maybe you just lose them, so they don't ever ask the question. So that's something to think about. But you can see how, if I am optimizing the writing of this piece of music to get people to ask this question of themselves, right? That would involve a different set of things that I do to that piece of music than if I was optimizing to get in a Spotify playlist or make people go nuts on a dance floor. Yeah. So the thing, that's one of the reasons the thing is so important. Hopefully that has given you another, was it just one example? No, a couple of examples. There was film music and the track that I've been working on.
Right, it was helpful.
There's also if you look on Spotify, there's different categories of things that are like commute, in the car, study,
lo-fi study,
gaming.
Which is a massive thing, right? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Music to eat porridge to.
My favorite playlist.
Yeah.
Electroflux asked about the games that I remember Mike giving some games using visual imagery as inspiration for musical ideas. Any plans to do more around that?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I've got a program called Mission Make Music Life where there is like weekly that kind of thing. And I think this is going to be more so essentially the Momentum Monday is that you are reviewing and planning your week and what you're going to focus on in terms of practice, in terms of results, in terms of things, and that's going to be an ongoing process. Yeah. And then we're going to have a section which is focused on basically teaching you or mentoring you on something to do with either the music itself, the production, or the money side of things. Yeah, and then there's going to be questions. But the actual kind of specific games and all that kind of stuff, that's really a mission make music your life thing. So I'm not really going to be setting you those kinds of actions in this. But there's nothing stopping you making your own from the kind of things you're going to be learning here.
And I think that's it.
Fantastic. Well, it's been absolutely wonderful to hang out with everyone. Great to see still so many people on. As I said, next week we're going to be focusing on hooks. So start thinking about that. Listen to the stuff, the masterclasses, the audio masterclasses in the coaching area. Until next week, onwards and upwards.